All right, everybody. Well, we're gonna just take a minute to let people come in, and as we do, uh, I'm gonna I'm gonna say something. So we lost power at my house, and so I'm at my in-laws' house, running this webinar off of my laptop and my iPad. So don't beat me up if I start roasting you or roasting these shows about the audio quality or anything along those lines, because I literally couldn't take my entire podcast studio and bring it over to my in-laws' house. I'm just so absolutely gracious that they are allowing me to be here. We have no idea when the power is going to come on, or even better, why the power is off. And I also want to say that we might be joined by somebody. Her name is Buffy, and it's my parents' dog, and she loves to just come down and pop her head in. So if anybody gets to see Buffy, that is actually a treat because she's a magnificent dog. So, I'm at Halloran, as most of you know. Jessica is joining us for the webinar today. Um, she is going to be helping me with color commentating, talking about the marketing and the branding of these shows. And Jessica is also the producer of the Rise Above the Noise podcast and also helps us with all of this stuff here. So, yeah, Jessica, are you ready to go?
Yeah, Matt, I promise I will not roast you because I think what you've done is a good example of just keeping it going no matter what the circumstances are. But I am seeing something in the chat already from Stoy Hall that's saying, no
I don't have the
excuses.
chat open. Stoy, what are you doing to me, man? Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Stoy. I love you, brother. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. So this basically is going to be a very, very specific preview of what we do in our Sonic Boom coaching program. And so we really cover 4 P's in the Sonic Boom coaching program. And so what our goal is for you to understand that you need to plan, you need to perform, you need to produce and promote a great show. Now, a lot of you on, because I saw the webinar attendees, Jessica and I went over it earlier, a lot of you have shows already, which is fantastic. Some of you are already clients of ours here at ProudMouth. Some of you are not clients of ours yet. And we're going to really go through 3 specific shows. So Stoy Hall is the first one that we're going to go over. He's got the No BS Wealth podcast. We're going to dive into that here in just a few minutes. And then we're going to, the second one that we're going to do is women's money wisdom. And this one, I just want to be fully transparent. I'm not going to be like ripping people apart here because we really chose some really good shows. So there's 2 that are financial services focused, and then 1 that is not financial services focused, which is one that I'll tell you a little story on that here in a few minutes. So, Jessica, when you're thinking about our Rise Above the Noise podcast, right? When you're thinking about the podcast that you helped us produce with Top Advisor Marketing, and you look at those 4 Ps, or is there anything there that you think that we could have done better with any of those shows, with the show that we have coming up that we're going to be launching soon? Why don't we roast ourselves just a little bit?
If I were to say something, I would guess you know what I'm about to say. I would say plan. There's a such thing as over planning where you actually end up holding yourself back because what you're actually doing is being a perfectionist and procrastinating. But I think if I knew back when we started what we knew now, oh God, is not the way.
Yeah.
I just wish I had been maybe a touch more strategic at
Mm.
times, but we learned. And just like everyone here, I mean, we did not make it easy on ourselves, Matt, with these podcasters that we chose, but there's still room for growth.
Yes.
And I'm so excited to get into
Yeah.
that.
And so we did 500 episodes of the Top Advisor Marketing podcast, and there we just it kept getting better and better. So in fact, I say this all the time during the sales process. Go back and listen to the first episodes that Kirk and I did, and then listen to the ones that we did at the end, and it's a night and day difference. And then when you guys all hear about the Rise Above the Noise podcast that we're going to be launching here soon, this is next level, right? This is the Rise Above the Noise podcast with the systems that we put in place in order to plan an unbelievable show. I make sure that my guests are really, really ready, which is something we're going to be talking about today. Also, making sure that your post production is exceptional. And actually, Jess, I'm going to go ahead and why don't you give me screen sharing? All right, so there's that. And I'm going to go ahead and pull. All right, beautiful. So you can see that, yeah?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay, listen, I'm sorry, guys. This is like a little bit wonky for me. Okay, so we're going to start with Stoy Hall. Now, full disclosure, and I need to say this out loud. I love Stoy. Not just as a podcaster, but as a human. I think he does great work. He is a content machine, but there are definitely things that he can go ahead and he can get better. So the first thing is we're going to just start on this plan. So on plan. And if you look at this page, right? So this is his podcast page on nobswealth.com. So he built an actual website for his show. I don't understand what's going on here. Some of the episodes have numbers, some of them don't have numbers. The numbers aren't actually like a line, like episode 127 and then episode 5. And I understand that it is a different show because Let's Get Real is a different episode, but I would try to be a little bit more clear. In fact, what I would like for Stoy to do is to actually have this page split, because the Let's Get Real episodes, they're very, very short, right? They're very succinct. They're generally one topic and they're highly opinionated. It's much more of a like a monologue that Stoy does. And I would actually have that on one side of the page, and then I would have his long form content, which is the No BS podcast, the actual show that he's been running for 127 episodes. I would actually have those split personally. Now, Stoy also does something that is, well, I'm just going to be really honest. It's a pet peeve of mine. I don't understand why podcasters have decided to do this. And so, oh, crud. I wonder if I can rewind this. Hold on a sec. Let me see if I refresh this, if it'll go back. It will. Good. All right. So I'm going to play something.
The single most
Can you hear
important thing in your life is you, your story, your ability to let people know who you are and your influence. If you have all of that, that's where success comes from. That's where being able to have a great family comes from. All of that comes from your story, which is one of the most important things you have here. Well, Leah Harris is here. Guess what? We're going to talk about stories. She's going to let us know how we should do it, why we should do it, her story. We're really going to dive into it, because ultimately, at the end of the day, end of this episode, what we want you to know is that you're not alone in your life, and there are a lot of people out here to help you. And the best way to get help is to communicate and let people know your story, where you're at, where you want to go. So, all right, girl, it's on you. Why don't you tell us about
Okay. So there's a bunch of things about this. Number one, I feel like I just entered into the middle of the episode. So a lot of podcasters, Jessica, nowadays are starting with what we refer to as a cold open, all right, which is previewing the episode. And what we're seeing in research, just so everybody knows, is people click skip 30 like almost immediately. If there isn't a formalized intro, which by the way, they generally skip that too, we have to remember that this is a show, and a show needs to have a specific format. It's part of the planning component of it, right? It needs to have expectations. Like people like right now, Jessica, and I know I can do this with you. I could say, think about the Friends theme song, and it's going to immediately pop into your head, right? And this is the sonic branding component that my friend Emily Bender has been talking about for many years. This needs to have a sonic brand. And what I would love for Stoy to do is to have something sonic. Now it can be 10 seconds, it can be 5 seconds. I don't care. Little bit of music. Then Stoy can do this cold open. And then you can also tell, and you can tell very quickly that what his thing was pre-recorded, and then he goes into the episode because his audio was different. And I'm a real stickler on audio levels and normalization. So he did his cold open, and then the audio that he did when he was recording with his guest, Aaliyah, right? It was different. You could fundamentally tell that it was a different sound. And that's one of the things that we need to pay attention to when it comes to audio specifically. What do you think, Jess?
Yeah, I agree, because otherwise it's a little jarring when you don't have that transition, and those signals that you're mentioning just make so much sense. There's something I'm really distracted by on this page, and I can't stop looking at it, is under each episode, it's starting with what looks like the same description, and then it changes to suit the episode. But the shoot us a message, we are here for you. And I wonder, I wonder if that's intentional or if this is something going on in the back end where it's pulling the same excerpt every time. But the reason it's distracting me is because it comes off a little bit salesy. And I don't think Stoy is salesy at all. But if I'm just a new person landing on this page, I may not know this, and I just don't even know the context of it.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that can be changed.
Yeah, so that to me would be a syndication issue, right? So in the syndication from when it goes RSS or API onto this page, there is something that is somewhat glitching, right? And honestly, don't you want to know what the episode's about? Like, I don't want to have to read through some stuff before I get to, who is Aaliyah. And by the way, the episode itself was so much fun to listen to. And we're not going to dive into that. But I also wanted to play one other quick thing here. So I'm going to play the short. So that episode 127 is the long form content, 41 minutes. And by the way, that's really the upper end of what research is saying now. Podcasting for what we consider at ProudMouth long form content really needs to be about 27 to 37 minutes. Now, and that window has grown exponentially because Jessica, you've heard me say 27 minutes for 6 years, right? When we first got that piece of information. But people are because not as many people are commuting, that was where most people were consuming podcasts. But I just want to play this one because it feels really different.
To pay myself or to not pay myself? That is the question, right, business owners? Do I pay myself? Do I reinvest back in my business? How the hell is all this going to work? Listen up here, because if you do not pay yourself, then what happens to your business? We never think about those things as business owners. We usually just keep pumping it back in and keep going and going and going and going. And for some of us, our business can actually pay for a lot of our living expenses. However,
okay. I love everything about that opening. Stoy's personality, he was acting, he was being Shakespearean. I mean, that's what, when you look at Stoy's other content, which we are going to highlight here in just a minute, his ability to perform is fantastic. Now, I've also had the opportunity to share a stage with him in the past. Just his ability to draw you in is really what I'm looking for. But what's missing there is the sonic branding. Let's Get Real needs to have something that's like, let's get real, right? And bam, that's it. It's 3 seconds, bam, it's professionally sung. I think Stoy actually can sing. But finding something that's fun, and that's he just starts it off, let's get real. That's the hook. Holy crap, it's a let's get real episode. I'm gonna lean in. And when you really look at what he's doing on actually, I'm going to go to his Instagram.
Matt, can I pause you for a second?
Yes, go ahead.
Stoy, hello to everyone, by the way, who's in the chat. Thank you for being here. Stoy is asking, that's interesting because it wasn't pre-recorded. Was the same recording live with the guest? Do you know why the sound would come from that?
What the episode 127 that I just talked about? That's what he's referring to?
Yes.
Whoa, I don't know, man. Did you could have moved your microphone farther away? Did you change position? We are going to talk about microphones here in just a minute, even though I don't have mine with me. That's crazy, Stoy. I need to.
He didn't move.
He didn't move. Why would that have been so different in post-production? Now that's not just me being weird. You heard that too, didn't you? Did you hear a difference? Now, Stoy, let me ask you this since you're here. Was she not on camera when you did the first part? Or did you click on anything at all? Or was she already on the screen? I'll let him answer that. All right, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
All right. So one of the greatest things about Stoy specifically is look at this, 836 posts. All right. He is chunking out content, right? It's really funny because I actually do follow him. I must not be logged in on the right page. But if you look at all of this stuff, like look at this. What an that is like the most perfect Instagram post you're ever going to see. But I do want to say that there are some issues here with the freeze frames. All right. And so we have to pay very close attention to this. Many people out there right now are using what's called Opus clips, or they're using Riverside clips, or they're using these different clips, and they're not taking the extra time to edit it. And if you look at some of these, like for instance, I would be upset personally if that was my frozen shot for the episode, right? My eyes are closed, my mouth's open, I'm a little bit blurry. Now it doesn't look like her camera was fantastic, but look at even what Stoy did to himself, you know? That path. What is that? I don't like the context there is a little bit off. And when you look at people who are really killing the clips, which by the way, Stoy is actually doing incredibly well with this. Look at this: 908 views, 1,000 views, 32 views. Where was one? 1,700 views, 1,400 views. What I would like to know, in Stoy, this would be something that I would want you and your team to do, is to try to figure out why. Why did these two posts, bookended with these two posts, do so much better? I mean, that to me is just really, really important. It could very well be that it says belly flop, right? I don't know, right? But those are the sorts of things that we always want to look at and dive in more deeply to find out a little bit more what's going on. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click on this so that you guys can see this.
There's a good reason why you're down the path that you're on, and it's 100% valid. And at any point in time, you get to curve the path, change the path, walk backwards, skip, walk on your hand.
All right. So there's a bunch of stuff here that I absolutely love that I want to highlight that Stoy's doing well. The first thing is the lands or the portrait is working very well. You can tell that she's out of frame a little bit. So, this is one of the issues with cropping things nowadays. But look at this. Bam, subscribe. You don't need a grand plan. You need just one different breath. What a great quote. What a great little snippet, right? But here's the crazy thing is we're not really getting a lot of traction. Right? 9 likes isn't bad, but for a video that had 1,700 views, you would think that there would be some comments. So that would be something that I would try to focus on. And we're going to talk a little bit about this, and I don't want to sound like a broken record because I say this a lot. It has to do with the posting and ghosting. So Stoy is creating so much content, which by the way, Michael Kitts has specifically said that financial advisors now are in the content creation business. They're not just advisors. And Stoy has really leaned into that incredibly well. Jessica, you know what? While I take a quick drink, do you want to talk about what the post and ghost philosophy is and how we need to stay away from it?
Yes. It is very much, what it sounds, publishing content and then disappearing. So I think it's a matter of asking yourself, are you setting time on a daily basis to interact with your audience? So that means responding to comments on your own posts and then, responding strategically to your network as well. It's okay. We all want to have a list of people that we are engaging with in a strategic way. Clients, prospective clients, centers of influence. And that just helps build relationships, deepens trust, and maybe in a, selfish way, but it's just psychology, is it reinforces that reciprocity of them coming back and engaging with your posts as well.
Yeah. I'm going to wrap up on Stoy here real quick. Sonic branding, consistent static images. But one of the things that I really want to talk about with Stoy is, with the exception of that small variation that we had, when you guys listen to his audio quality of his shows, because he bought the right equipment and he knows how to use the right equipment, is one of the reasons why people are consuming his content. All right, Jess, we're going to move on to the next one. Yippee, Melissa Joy. Now, I want to thank Melissa, and I don't know if I think she's here, right?
She's here.
Oh, good, she's here. Thank you, Melissa, so much. We had somebody who said, don't use my stuff. And so Jessica and I were like, well, yeah. And so Melissa said, don't roast me too hard. But I'm going to offer up my show. So Melissa, thank you for that. So I'm going to start with a whole bunch of stuff that I absolutely love. So this is her landing page on Buzzsprout. So this is actually her podcasting page. From a branding perspective, I don't know if this could really get much better, because Women's Money Wisdom doesn't necessarily need a subtitle because it's very clear what the podcast is. Some of you have created podcasts that have very obtuse names that need a description. She did not, right? Melissa, actually, she really nailed this. The simple fact that she was able to get this too means that, she was way ahead of the game. She's got 272 episodes in the can, everybody. I mean, she's been podcasting forever. And this is absolutely fantastic. But I love this too.
Yeah,
right?
Can we look at that, Matt?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm getting excited.
Yes.
Because with this podcast description, one of my pet peeves, Matt, is when it starts out with "welcome to," and it's the name of the podcast. I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's just duplicative and it's wasting valuable real estate where you could be putting something right away that's relevant and resonant to your audience, because we already have the podcast name on the graphic. We know what it is. So can we scroll up a little bit and see how she starts this out? Is she jumps right into the problem and then who the audience is. And yes, I love that. I love that. I know this is not roasty, but I do.
Well, it's not roasty, but she does go into the welcome, right? So she's hooking you. And so one of the big things here that is absolutely fantastic is how many keywords are infused in this podcast description. And so when somebody is searching for these sorts of podcasts, her podcast is going to show up. Now, I would actually like it to have even more. I'd like when I look at this, right, I want to know her ideal client profile, her avatar, even clearer, because like this, right, I would probably have started off by saying something like, women carry the weight of multiple roles. Then I would go, because now you've hooked me, right? Now, oh, you're talking to me. I'm a woman. I am, I feeling the weight of multiple roles. Anyway, I would just probably tweak that front sentence. And then I would also infuse in here, actually probably in here, just a little bit more information about the show, who your guests are, why you're doing it. I probably do a little bit more of a why. But so Melissa, I just realized that you're in Michigan. So, hey, fellow Michigander, I'm sitting in the basement in Portage, Michigan right now. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and click here on her show. What a great hook, right? This is just wonderful. Very, very nice. Look at this. It's hint. It's not just such good marketing here. Really well placed stuff. And now I'm going to go ahead and play the show. Jessica, you'll be proud of me. I turned off 1.5 times speed on all of these, so I'm not playing them at the speed I listen to podcasts. I'm playing it to the speed where most people do. So here we go.
Welcome to the Women's Money Wisdom Podcast. I'm Melissa Joy, a certified financial planner and the founder of Pearl Planning. My goal is to help you streamline and organize your finances, navigate big money decisions with confidence, and be strategic in order to grow your wealth. As a woman, you work hard for your money, and I'm here to help you make the most of it. Now, let's get into the show. Just a quick note before we dive in. The information that we share is meant to educate and inspire, not to serve as personalized financial advice.
Beautiful disclosure.
How do you travel with your financial hat on? That is what we're going to be covering today. I've got a great guest. I'm joined by Bry Keith, who is the founder of Bry Guides, a travel concierge service that helps people turn points and miles into premium travel. After a decade in New York City, working and finding a little different, so I can't wait to hear how to keep somewhat of a budget in mind, as should I do the travel point credit cards? And I think it depends if you're just looking for the.
Okay. So we're 2 minutes and 36 seconds in, and I haven't heard from the guests yet. Now, the other thing too, and please understand, this is not trying to overstep my bounds because I'm not a chief compliance officer. But most podcasts, I mean, we produce 10,000 episodes. You don't actually have to have that disclosure at the front. You can put the disclosure at the end, and that would have saved us about 30 to 45 seconds. Melissa, I've actually never heard of somebody really needing to put that level of a disclosure disclaimer in the front end. The other thing too, and we've talked about this on other webinars, we talk about this a lot in the Sonic Boom coaching program, which is plosives. Now, unfortunately, since I don't have a microphone, I'm going to use my phone just to kind of show you. So imagine that this is your microphone. All right. So Melissa, you have very hard S's, and you can hear the hissing, which by the way, you can take out some in post-production, but basically what that means is the microphone that you're using isn't managing that sound well. And so either that or you're really having more compression on it than you should. But we can solve this two different ways. The first way that we can solve this is by angling your microphone differently. So a lot of you are talking directly into your microphone like this, right? So you have it up here, it's like you this way. When you have hard P's, T's, and S's, what you want to do is you want to offset the microphone a little bit, because the pattern, which generally are directional cardioid patterns, it's going to be about this big in front of that microphone. And when I'm talking through that plane, the microphone is still going to pick it up. But if I'm talking through the plane, when I'm right on it like this, because I have very hard P's, so I have my microphone turned up and I'm talking over that specifically. P's, T's, and S's are one of those things that unless you really know how to manage your microphone, or you have one of those circle things, they're called pop filters, which really could help Melissa specifically, but then that's going to get in the way of your cool videos, which we're going to jump to in a minute. The intro was way too long, but she had kick-ass Sonic branding at the beginning, man. I knew that was her show right from the beginning. All right, Jessica, as I cue up this other thing, what do you got?
Yeah, I really liked how in the intro, Melissa said, you work hard for your money. And I saw that on their website as well, really high up in their messaging. So we have that continuity that just subtly links me back to their brand and makes everything cohesive. And it just reminds us all of the song too. It's a little bit fun. So very, very warm, lovely introduction to the podcast. Like I want to hear more.
So now we're going to move to, so we talked about planning a little bit, right? We talked about, the overall performance of the show, but now we're really going to talk about the overall level of engagement and getting more people to listen. So this is the promotion of your show specifically. I think Melissa's falling into the same issue that a lot of people are, which she's not on social when she's posting. And the algorithms really know that, right? This is absolutely fantastic. We also know that LinkedIn doesn't love this, especially if you're going to be clicking outside of LinkedIn, which we are. And so it doesn't promote those posts as much because LinkedIn's algorithm wants to keep you on their page so that they can sell you all of this sort of crap and ask you to do all of these sorts of things. All right. But when you look at this post specifically, this is the headline that you're going to get right out of the gate. Now, we're not a huge fan of in this episode because it's, you don't really have to say that. There are lots of other ways to say that, but look at this. This is the best. In fact, I probably would have led with that because it's a great question, right? So this is a question, but this is an intriguing question that's going to say, wait, hold on. I have a bunch of points. How do I turn those into plane tickets? And then the second line would be, think business class is out of reach. Think again. I'm talking to, and what was his name? Bry, I haven't heard that one before. Bry about this, right? And so that's how I would transition that a little bit. But if you look at her posts, 3 likes, 1 comment, 3, it looks like they're kind of the same people. This is nice because Rachel actually reposted. Now this is the sort of stuff, guys. Look at this. So it's a repost of the show that she was on with her. And this is the expectation you need to set for every single solitary guest. The price of admission to be on your show is that they have to share that show with their audience. Most of you who are on this work with high net worth, wealthy people. If Rachel wants to gain access to potentially prospect your client base, they have to be willing to share their show. If they say no, they are not on your show. And proof's in the pudding, right? This is how ProudMouth grew our whole business. we brought on all of these marketing people and all of these famous people in financial services, and they shared the show. All right, Jess, you are way better at social media than I am. What do you think about this stuff?
I'm really curious to see this video post that you're on right now. Can you click more? I just want to see what the rest of the copy is in this clip. Okay. I'd really like to see more podcasters shifting towards what SparkToro, their term is zero click content, where you are giving all of the value in the post itself without trying to lead them to an external link. You may have the link there so that they can dive deeper, but it's really just additive. And technically, yes, we have a video here. We're going to get some information, but I'd love to see Melissa taking it a step further and putting some of that information into the copy itself so that I'm already sold on the value. And then I click on the clip or not to hear more, but I'm still getting something. And it's the same with that post that we looked at initially that was really about driving people over to the podcast. I think we need to treat our social media audiences as podcast consumers, perhaps on a different level. We are, for lack of better words, we are feeding them the podcast, and they are getting to know us, our expertise, our unique perspective, even if they never go and click on the podcast. Because you know what? We hope they will, but some people just aren't interested in podcasts as a medium. And that's okay. But when you take that zero click content approach, you're not spending your efforts trying to convert them to a medium. You're just converting them to who you are as a professional.
So she actually just put in chat there. I just noticed that we have a whole bunch of people talking. I haven't been paying any attention to it. That she's changing compliance. That's fantastic. And then, should the link go in the comments? The answer is yes. The link would go in the comments. Now what I'm going to do, Jess, and I'm going to just go ahead and play this clip.
Absolutely. I even say that there are things, if you're part of that brigade of like, estate planning is too expensive, or, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to be dead, who cares, right? But there are things that you can do that are free and that are easy, that will help leave a little bit more of a breadcrumb trail for your family. Create a list of your assets and your debts, of your current assets and debts, right? What are your open accounts? Do you have a mortgage? Do you have a car loan, right? Update your beneficiaries.
Okay, so couple of things here. Look at the difference in where their eyes are. All right, I'm going to have everybody just take a look at this. So where is Melissa looking and where is her guest looking?
Right. Almost every account can have a beneficiary designation. So you get asked when you open your retirement plan.
Okay, see, because you can just see. So Melissa went from looking at her or her guest to looking at the camera. This is something that we are hardwired to do. In fact, I was at the Peak conference, the Carson Wealth conference, a couple of years ago, I think, last year maybe. And they brought these Fidelity Lab people on, these two PhDs that were really studying behavioral finance. And one of the things that they said from a behavioral perspective is we are actually hardwired to look at ourselves. And so if you can make it so, and like, I'll give you an example. So I have two screens here. I brought my iPad because I can't function off one screen. Jessica is over here and I'm over here. I'm not looking at myself because I know that if I do, I'm going to get fixated on looking at myself, and then I'm not going to look at the camera, because if I'm looking at the camera, all of you think I'm looking at you. And that is something that we have to hard train ourselves to do. Your goal is to look at that yellow, green, or red dot. That is you just laser focus on that. Don't look at yourself, go ahead and do that. I've been told before, Jessica, what happens if I have notes? Great. Then you look away, strategically look away, write something down, look back. This is just such a wonderful engagement tool that's really, really important. Now, the other thing too is if you look at Headspace. So Melissa's camera I don't believe is positioned as well as it should be. In fact, I think it actually should be raised. And you guys can see right now, this is driving me crazy because I'm looking down at all of you instead of what normally happens. My computer is usually about here. So it's probably 3 to 4 inches above where it is right now. So I'm looking directly at the camera. that's really important. The other thing that's very strange is I don't see a microphone. Now, I see that her guest actually has the Apple earbuds, which is a massively condensed sound quality, which you can hear, but I don't see Melissa's microphone. So I don't know, Melissa, can you put it in there? Are you using the inline microphone or do you have an external microphone there? Because we're missing some warmth. Blue Yeti. Oh gosh.
Oh no.
Okay. So, okay. So Melissa, I love you. I don't know you well. That is the worst microphone that has ever been made for podcasting, and that is the reason your P's and S's are terrible. Okay, I didn't know what your microphone was. You need to take that microphone. You need to give it to Goodwill, give it away, and then we'll send you a link afterwards to a proper microphone. That is going to it's going to make you sound a kabillion times better. I didn't know what microphone you were using, and so I didn't want to make that assumption, but yeah, that's it. All right, Jessica, we still got one other podcast. So a couple other things here. This was that's the website, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So right here, so this is something I absolutely love. Jessica and I talked about this as we were preparing for this. It's very easy to find the podcast. Just look at how wonderful this website is. The logo's fantastic. No grit, no pearl. Beautiful statement. This is just a really, look at this, social proof, Kerblanco, right? Bam, working mother. I would actually probably have led with that. Women to watch, probably would have led with that. But man, look at this. You have questions, we have answers. I didn't go through Stoy's website, which by the way, you need to go. Black Mammoth, check it out. His website's freaking awesome. But I just wanted to highlight this because, I think this website is incredibly well done, very easy to navigate, and allows you to do that. All right, we have one other thing. Facebook. So we wanted to highlight Facebook just a little bit here. And so, with 436 followers, which actually isn't too shabby. The podcast isn't here, but the YouTube channel is. Jessica and I were doing some research. I think you can actually put the podcast link over here. So I would do that. But there's no traction. And so the question that we like to ask during our onboarding process, and one of the things that we attack in the Sonic Boom coaching program is, where is your ideal client, right? And so Melissa, I'm asking you that. Where is your ideal target market, right? Is it Facebook? Is it LinkedIn? Or is it Instagram, right? So let's go to your Instagram and see if, yep, you're at about the same 300 followers. I can't see your traction here because, well, there we go. Yeah, so look, you're hovering right at hundreds and hundreds. Yep, that's pretty good. So you're getting more. Look, 241. That's really awesome. Wonder why that was bigger. Did you throw money at that? But most of these are very good. What is that? Retirement is always the highest. Yeah. All right. That's wonderful. Trying to do more retirement topics. Yeah. So making it so that you have the hyper focus on where, if you're looking at women who are balancing all of this heavy stuff, sandwich generation stuff, where do they hang out? And I'm going to offer something up, and I know that there isn't a lot of, and maybe this could be a compliance issue for you. I would be leaning into Instagram and Pinterest. Because you already have the context, you already have the memes, you already have the images, right? I would be leaning into Pinterest pretty hard because we know that that's where wealthy women go for creative ideas. And I don't know, just something for you to think about. All right, Jess, before we move on to the Girl Scouts, because we don't really have that much time left. You have any questions? Oh, look, it's Karen. I love Karen. She's a client of
I
ours.
know. I was seeing that too. I think I would be encouraged by the traction here. And I think just looking at, Melissa saying retirement is always the highest, trying to do more retirement topics. So she is obviously being very strategic about this. What does my audience need to hear, and what is going to get that visibility? So I think it's just going to grow.
All right, so the last one that we're going to do is we're going to do the Girl Scouts Heart of Michigan podcast. So this is the Girl Scout Advantage podcast. And so Kirk and I, when we, this was many, many moons ago, when we were just launching, and we had like a couple of really unbelievable opportunities that ended up making us feel like we wanted to give back a little bit. So Kirk went ahead and he started working with First Nation people in Canada, and I am a Girl Scout fan. And so I went ahead and talked to Brenna, who I ended up meeting through a networking group. And I said, hey, do you guys want to start a podcast? And she was like, oh my God. And so we donated the equipment. I helped her go ahead and get everything set up. And there's so many things right about this. And the one thing that I really want to focus on here is that she created our Dudes of Girl Scouts series. And, so many of these, look, but she should have been a little bit more consistent with that. Like, I would have said, the mini series, they kind of rewrote these a little bit differently. The Dudes of Girl Scouts. So this is the narrative that I would have had. And if you look, I mean, she's really pretty damn close in her consistent on time. And she's got ratings and reviews, which I know is difficult for financial services, but she doesn't have a whole bunch, but she's got them. Social proof, 4.7 out of 5. Look this. This one's a 3. That's kind of a schmucky thing to do. But this is nice, a great podcast. Here's what it is. This is something that they really need to, I'm going to have to talk to Brenna about this, but we really want to expand that section of the show to make it so that Girl Scouts are going to find this podcast even more. And in fact, as Jessica and I were preparing for this, I was telling her a story that when I first sat down with Brenna, we were talking about podcast guests, and she she said, Matt, I don't know if you know this, but every Supreme Court justice, every sitting senator, and this was at the time, and every sitting House of Representative member in the United States branches of government were all Girl Scouts. And I was like, you need to get, like all of these senators and congressmen on, on the podcast. And she has swung for the fences a couple of times because she talked to me about it. But when you have a brand like this, when you have something as epic as the Girl Scouts behind you, that gives you so much permission. This doesn't just have to be Michigan, which by the way it is, so it's hyper-focused, hyper-regional. But goodness gracious. I remember when she came up with the logo, but by the way, this is a huge part of the Girl Scouts. Now, I think they could up the game a little bit here. Jessica, what do you think about the logo here?
Before I answer that, it's like I just need to say what's bubbling up.
Oh, sure.
The episode titles. How come they are naming the titles after the guest? Just from an SEO perspective, I don't understand it, because these are, beloved people in the community, but they're not celebrities where I'm going to be searching this name or recognizing them. People in the Girl Scouts community will recognize them, but if you want new even then can't totally be sure. If you want new listeners, why not? And I would say this to financial services too, get that topic in the title, and then with Matt Bates, include the guest name. That's just something I would change. If I could wave that magic wand, I would change that right away. Yeah. And then Matt, you were asking about the logo. Can you? Oh, about the words. I like the side profile, the green woman. I wonder if there's a way to combine these two together, because I don't even know if the circle with the title is really meant to be a logo, but I don't love the two circles.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it just creates a strange, hierarchy.
Well, and when you lean into this, right? So, you can really go ahead and take a look at, hold on. I'm just going to click on the homepage. I really do think that there's a lot of opportunity for them to, this is an incredibly well-designed page, right? I mean, it really, really is. And so I would love to be able to have the podcast be able to be there too. at the level of the website. I mean, I think it's nice. It's a little retro, but I don't really know if Girl Scouts, anywhere from whatever 5 to 13 or 16 are going to really dig retro. And the show isn't always about the girls, it's about the Girl Scout experience. And I would like to lean into that just a little bit more too. And when we get here, like, so if we take a look at this, this would have been a great title. I just came here to do the work. Now, I agree, AKA Graham Stan Ketchum, super duper, right? Yay for, but that's a podcast title. I mean, you just got my freaking attention. Wait a second here. What he said? I did not think I would have to be involved with the kids. And then I found out it was just a matter of getting, gosh, could you imagine? I found what I wanted to be. Woo-hoo-hoo! Could you imagine that title for a podcast? Man, people click the hell out of that. Anyway.
Yeah, like kudos to them for putting it, recognizing the power of that and putting it in the summary. But I agree with you, put that higher up because this is a storytelling podcast and it sets that tone right away to I'm clicking on something and I'm going to be entertained and amazed by this really great story.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go ahead and hit to their Facebook page now. If anybody has any questions, I see that Stoy and Melissa now are fast friends, which is fantastic. I really appreciate that. Actually, Jessica, I'm gonna go to their Facebook page.
Yeah.
The reason why we brought this up was pretty clear. Goodness gracious, was.
Oh, I think if you click down there, Matt, to the left, you could go to their profile. Oh, it went away. It said continue viewing. Maybe if you go back.
Yeah. There it is. Yay. So here's the thing, and we're going to be quick on this. There's no post about the podcast that we were able to find easily. It's not over here. Now that's not what they're promoting, and I understand that. But this is what they're promoting. They're reporting, girls, membership, volunteers, camps, all of this. I totally get that. But especially with the Dan Ketchum podcast, right? Because he's talking about, a Camp Linden. What a great opportunity to promote Camp Linden and also promote the show to get the girls to start listening. All right, Jess, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here if you want to go ahead and jump back, because there's a couple of things that I really want to talk to everybody about before we wrap up today. First off, I want to say this. I really, really, really appreciate the robust chat. The ultimate goal of ProudMouth is that we've really wanted to try to build a community of like-minded experts who want to share their experiences and their advice and make it so that they're not the best kept secret in their area. And we've really done this very well, I believe, with the Sonic Boom coaching program. So if you have an existing podcast, Stoy and Melissa, just use you guys as an example, and what we said today was helpful to anybody who's listening to who has a show, right? Okay, so here's the funny thing. My parents are so old, they still have landlines in their house, and the landline phone is ringing right now. So I don't know if anybody can hear that, but I'm sorry. I don't know what to do about it. But anyway, so here's the thing. If you have a show, if anything that we said today is helpful, imagine that spread out over 6 calls where you're going to be hanging out with other people who are just like you, who are going to help you get better, right? So it's 4 months, right? In Laura Rotter was in our last class. And I'm not going to read it because you all can read, but just take a second and read Laura. Laura was a Wall Street executive, a CFA. So she was huge on Wall Street, decided that she wanted to help people much more, built her own financial services practice, and her podcast got exponentially better afterwards. We had another person, I don't know, Stoy's actually met him. His name is Johannes Harrison. He was in our first class. Johannes actually got a 3,000% increase in his impressions on LinkedIn by implementing one of the strategies that we teach in Sonic Boom. And we have a special for everybody. So before everybody bounces, just go ahead and scan this QR code and 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, you're going to get a free strategy session with me. We're starting our class on June 2nd. So if you are interested, we need to get you in as quickly as possible. I have seats left. I would love to have anybody who has a podcast to come into the program. But the super cool thing here is, and the last slide said this, is we have a buy one, get one. And so Stoy, if you and Melissa want to go together on this, instead of $2,500 a piece, it's going to be $1,250 for each of you for the whole program. But if you want to talk more about it, please scan the free strategy session. This is going to give you access to my calendar. I've opened up my calendar exponentially so that I have lots and lots and lots of time to meet with all of you to talk about what's going on with your show, what you can do to plan, promote, produce, and to see, I lost the other P, Jess. Why did I lose the other P? Plan, perform, produce, and promote. Right there it is. And making sure that you're really promoting your show to get as many people to listen to it as possible, because that's what we're doing this for. That's what we're here for. We are here to help you amplify. And I was just going to point, Jessica, that's so funny because my logo is right here on my wall. But if you look at this, right, it is a megaphone. And that's what we're here to do, is we're here to amplify your voice so that the right people hear you at the right times to do the stuff that you guys can help them with. So with that, everybody, thank you for participating. If you have not listened to the podcast that we highlighted today, please subscribe to those shows. They're all amazing. They all do a great job. They all provide great information. Shameless plug for the Girl Scouts, since Brenna allowed us to do that. If you have the opportunity to donate to anybody and you're just sitting around and you don't have any opportunity, you want to blow some money, send some money to the freaking Girl Scouts. They're amazing. What they do for girls in our community, in your community, is unbelievable. And going back to what I said before, Supreme Court justices, sitting Congress people, sitting House people, they were all Girl Scouts. It's an unbelievable organization. Melissa, keep doing what you're doing. Stoy, keep doing what you're doing. Fine tweaks, right? Little tweaks here and there will make everything even better. Jessica, you got anything to close it up?
Nope, just so glad for you all to be here. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. We'll see you in a couple weeks on our next webinar. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.